The voiceover doctor presents Margaritas, Mojitos, and Microfones. Viva el voiceover doctor.
Hey, John, Bruce Thomas!
Hey.
Ike Amadi! Baby Mortellaro! And JK!
Done any games?
I play a shitload of games.
Awesome, awesome. You know there's going to be certain things. There's pirates in other games, and there's Disney pirates. So you know he's not going to swear. You know he's not going to. There's going to be some kind of cleanness about him. You know, cleanliness about him. He's not going to be super dark, super evil. So that's important to know. Again, who the developer is.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Nicely done.
Very nice, very nice.
The way to differentiate yourself from most people who are going to come in and just say the lines is to, even if what you're saying, even if the scene that you set is wrong, that's not what matters. What matters is that it's believable when it's heard on the other end. And for it to be believable, you have to see it yourself. So, like, these lines in between, allow it, who did it, you know, those things, each one has to be separate and feel like something completely different. Because that's how the casting director is going to go, okay, I can throw anything at this person and they'll be able to handle it, as opposed to this person understands the character sheet that I wrote out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All right, who's next?
Oh man, we were in the middle of the line with the Swedes, the Pakistanis, and the Germans on our left. I think it was the Italians and the Canadians on our right. When the bullets started flying though, you stopped caring about where the guy next to you was from. You just covered him. And trusted he'd do the same for you.
That's just exactly, you know, it's really natural. You hear how natural that is. It's just him being him and talking and staying in the moment and stuff. There's a, you know, it wasn't completely articulate, but that's exactly how people speak.
Cool.
So it was really, really nice, really nice. So I don't want to beat this one over the head, but that was great.
So, any questions?
Have you ever, like, you know, tried out a voice for a character and the director's like, that's great, and then you have, like, a tough time, like, keeping it, or and you kind of feel like it's...
Changing,
like,
drifting.
yeah.
That happens a lot, and then, you know, like I was saying, it's all about practice. And a lot of times, when I'm working on a game and if I know somebody's new, or even if they're not new, and we're developing a character and trying to find it, we try to, a lot of times we'll go through the first several lines or even pages and find the one line and go, okay, that's the reference line. And then we copy that line and bring it to the top so that when we start to hear it drifting, maybe every 10 lines, we'll play that back so we know we're being honest. And then as the game develops, say it's a game that goes on for months or even years, sometimes the last, at the end, I'll go back and go over the first 2-3 pages and listen back. And you could hear it where it started to change, and then we'll replace those, and it's really quick now because now you're in the character and stuff. And then we keep on playing the line until you hear it's like, okay, now that's where it started as the way we know it, and you're done. But that happens a lot. But it's practice, and some people in the booth you could hear when I was saying, oh, you're starting to drift a little, and that's just ridiculous amount of practice not to drift.
Yeah, and I think on that line, be careful about what you choose. It may be fun to come up with some crazy, wacky way of doing something, but exactly, keep that in mind. You'll have to do it for a while. So
I would say whatever you audition for, be sure that you can hold that character for 4 hours.
like I did this, somebody asked me to do a vaguely, they asked me to come up with some villain, and I said, okay, I can do it like this. Superman. And then they said, perfect, we love that. And I did it. For 4 hours. And then they said, can you do it times 10? And I had to do it times 10. Yeah. And so it was fun to do, but be careful.
All that. Actually, no, I've been that guy, you know, in the booth with Jamie, where he's had to stop and go, okay, you're drifting a little bit, come back. But I think there's an element to being comfortable enough with yourself to say, hey, I'm doing my best, I'll figure it out, and then relax, and then listen to the reference and find it again and stick with it, and not get upset at yourself because you drift. Yeah.
And that was a unique character because he was Knack. It was like the first game released for the PlayStation 4, And that was a tricky character because that gets big and small, and we weren't sure if he should sound different, and there was a lot of tricky stuff going on with that one.
Do you feel Ike and Bruce, from the acting standpoint, or Jamie too, that it's the pictures that you create in your head that help you to recover? That it's the realness that you created that helped you recover, as opposed to, I got to get back to that voice?
I think it's a combination of the two. It's not so much like I got to get back to that voice, but I think it's that you play the scene, like we talked about this the whole time, like you play the scene out in your head and you're following what's going on in the scene, and that leads you back. So when they play the reference back, what that does is remind you of the scene and where you are, and then you go, oh yeah, I'm back, and then it comes out, because it's less about what you sound like and more about how you feel.
Yeah. It can also lead you, if you get stuck, if you feel like you get stuck, it can also lead you into a wonderful area of colors that you never thought you'd come up with. If you get stuck, you can just maybe you're stuck on the high end of something, and you just can't go any higher than that. So we have no choice but to find another way to do it.
And I find sometimes when people start to drift, and if they have a hard time getting back, sometimes it's as simple as just playing some previous lines, or talking about the character where they are. And sometimes the characters are unique, and it's riding the line between whether it's good and evil, or different types of projections. And sometimes it's such a unique character, it's hard to find the uniqueness again, because it's so not consistent. So sometimes it is, it was a great question, and sometimes it is about, okay, this is this guy, and talking about the character again, and finding it and making people feel relaxed again, because you get in there and people start getting uptight or something, and then they're lost, and especially if you're not doing it all the time, you're like, oh shit, and then all of a sudden you're like in a completely different world. And it's about trying to relax and trying to hopefully you're working with people that are understanding and know that each and every actor needs something different.
And it's nice too. What I observed when you were directing people, Jamie, it was you have that luxury when you have a director like Jamie who's feeding you the lines of the other characters and so on and so forth. A lot of times in the audition you don't have that luxury, so you've got to create those moments in your head too. So the job is almost a little easier than the audition itself. I saw some really nice stuff from you guys, and I know a lot of you too, and I've seen your work. And it was fun to watch you with Jamie within that particular game, to watch him pull a little more out of you guys. That was really kind of fun to watch, and I commend all of you for rising to the occasion.
For going there.
Yeah, it was fun.
You're willing to go there. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's all with gaming, especially. You just gotta feel comfortable and just blow it out. Just go for it. And we were talking about some stuff and really making sure that room is yours. You own that room. That is your room. You go in there and just take hold of it.
It's a long day at work, though. Just ask Laura Post. She can.
She's known for that.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Don't post that.
Well, no, I got a compliment very early on in my early 20s when I was doing theater in New York, and a producer came up to me after a show I did. It was a farce, and after the show she said, well, it's really nice to see that you have no problem making an ass of yourself.
Hell, I do that every day.
And it's really important. Don't be afraid to make an ass of yourself.
Yeah. And another note, Laura Post is wonderful. I've directed her many times. She's worked many times.
But whenever I can get a dig in on her, I'm gonna Any other questions? We don't have a lot of time tonight, but go ahead, Chris.
So, my question is mainly about making your reel. How do you know when you're actually ready?
That's a tricky thing. I think a lot of people build their reels too early, and they're like, they spend the money and they want to do it, but they're really not even ready. They think they need the reel, and it's like we were talking. You're just starting this, you know what I mean? And you could build a really mock reel pretty cheaply at home for nothing. And it's almost like better start there and playing for your friends, especially if you're doing gaming animation. Play it for your friends that are in the business or that watch animation or play games. Play it for them, and if they're gonna be like, dude, that sucks, listen to them, because they're listening to this stuff all the time, and see games and animated shows that you like, and mimic some of the stuff, transcribe some of the stuff, play it back and record and see if you could sound like them or in that world or your version of that character. But I suggest really, until you're really feeling confident of your acting skills, of your of all those things, because you might put a great reel together, you might find that thing in each thing, but then when you go in a session, you're not ready yet.
Because that's like 8-second pieces.
Yeah, you're not ready yet. So like you and I were talking, I was saying like improv is a good shorter cut to things, you know what I mean? To getting used to spitting stuff out quickly and finding your own voice and feeling comfortable.
Yeah, and people ask me that a lot too, because we make them here.
Yeah.
And before I'll go in and do a game reel or an animation reel, I'm always say to people, find 8 solid characters that are yours, that are your characters, that are all about you, that you've created yourself. Because that is gonna help you impress an agent more than doing all the voices that are already out there all the time anyway, because chances are, they've already got those guys. They've got Master Chief. They don't need another one.
And that's add to that. A lot of it, everybody was telling me, be good at your own voice. Just be great at your own voice, and then later, you can make it, changing your voice. Sometimes it's not a matter of changing your voice all the time. It's about behaviors of that character. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Within the same voice.
Yes.
And you could do things where, of course, you layer it with an accent. Then you can layer it with age, but it's just being really good and comfortable in your own voice and interpreting the dialogue and. That's my best advice I could say is be great at your own voice.
I have one story.
good.
Sorry. Quick story. I have a friend who had a run-in with a casting director at the beginning of her career. Right, she made a demo too fast, and the casting director heard it, and that casting director went on to become an agent at an agency. Right, so 6 years pass. She goes to the agency and. Our friend of hers is another agent, and so the other agent takes her demo, and the guy looks at the name, and he's like, oh, I know who this is. He puts it down, and he refuses for 4 weeks to listen to her demo, despite the fact that the other agents in the office are like, just listen to it. He's like, no, I heard her back, it doesn't change, you know what I mean? And so eventually he listened to it, was like, oh, she got better, but without the effort of the other agents, it wouldn't have happened. People don't forget, especially in animation. So before you step into that arena, be sure that not only are you there to be good, but there to dominate.
I'm not a gamer. I don't do a lot of games.
I'm not either.
Well,
Seriously?
but you look like George Clooney. So you have that on me, Jesus Christ, Bruce. No, I bring it up only because like Noshir and Ian and some other people that I work with all the time, all you, as I say, you kids on Facebook. You guys sometimes I'll be doing my auditions and these guys will come in and go, no, dumbass, it's this guy like this and that guy. I'm like, oh, it's that guy? Oh, okay, I can do that, But it really would behoove you to, if this is the world you want to be in, play the games and learn. I mean, Laura's a great example. I mean, I'm not trying to embarrass you this time. You're a great example of you're in that world. You live in that world. In fact, when Acme Archives, we were doing a little video to help Acme Archives get something, and they said, you know what, can you hire an actress to come in and pretend to like all this stuff that we sell? I go, well, do you want the real thing? She's, and I brought her in, and they were like, oh my God, this girl's great, because she talked the talk. So it's only going to help you out to know this as well as you can.
And I talked to something about that before, and the shortcut to that, because if you don't have the time to take up gaming and get the consoles and doing all that stuff, is at least to watch the cutscenes online. Just YouTube.
I do that.
Look at cutscenes, and you'll get familiar with, okay, this is how the stories are told, this is how gameplay looks, and this is how, with the big AAA titles. And that helps a lot, and I think I told both groups that.
Well, and again, not to embarrass you, but Ike's a really good example too. Because when he came to me a few years back and we started working together, and he said, I want to get into the game thing and now I want to start doing cartoons. Hey, it's Saturday mornings. What the fuck do you think the guy's doing? He was already into the game world because he's a nerd. I mean, look at that. Okay? But no, I mean, he's got got Spider-Man pictures around his house. What the hell, man? Okay. But the other thing. See, now I am trying to embarrass you. But the other thing was he would sit on Saturday mornings and sit and watch all the cartoons because he wanted, and he's watching the credits and he's seeing who's doing it. He's listening to, and look at where he is. He's teaching these classes now. He used to take all these classes. Now he's teaching these classes, and I really commend him for his work ethic, and this is why I like him around my own children.
Good influence.
One last question. No. Three last questions.
Sorry, so I guess different perspectives. One point of view, I guess, from actors and one from a director. For someone who's been getting into the mocap world but wants to be doing more face and voice capture, is there, I mean, clearly the industry is a lot about who you know and just the connections that you're making through that work. Are there other proactive things that you can be doing to kind of further that?
I'd say with your agent specifically, to talk to your agent, say, get me out on more voice stuff. Just get me out, because otherwise how else to do it?
Right.
You got to have your agent do it, because they're getting the calls from the casting directors.
Okay.
So really getting them to push you on that. Because I thought you did a great job. I've never seen you do that before. So that was really right on, doing that stuff.
Thanks.
So I would say, don't look at me as this stuntman mocap guy. Look at me as an actor, and voice that happens to do stunts. That's kind of a way for yourself to almost have to angle yourself with people that don't know you yet. It's like, yeah, I do voice guy, and I do, you need stunts.
Like if he slipped you $100, could you just call him in on some bogus shit? So the agent's real impressed, and I'm just trying to make you a little money. Hey, Jim, here's $100. Call me in on a couple things. I know it's bullshit.
Well, you came in on something in the Halo universe. You came in on that, so I heard that was very nice.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, we had Marcy over there.
Yes. Do you have, for video games, any ADR background screaming? And if so, how do you get into that?
It's the same. It's the same thing with casting. Once in a while, there'll be a Walla session. The ADR is, like usually the person who's ever doing the role will ADR the animation or something. But if it's group stuff, that's Walla, and that's just knowing the casting director. There's no real
Barbara
way.
Harris.
Yeah, Barbara Harris. Right.
Yeah.
But there's not like a proactive way I think you could get into that, except just meeting people and knowing people and getting your agent to push on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or, like, just go try to meet him in a bar. That's Bruce's M. I was like, just meeting people in bars. They just give me jobs. I love that story.
And it works.
It's like, need an actor?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a bar. Be out. Just see, talk to people. Don't be afraid to tell people what you want.
Yeah.
In all honesty. And that's what I started doing when I came upon this guy. I was kind of just spreading it out there. Hey, I want to be in voiceover. I want to be in voiceover. I want to be in voiceover.
Yeah.
I want to be in voiceover.
Actually, you know what? Whoopi Goldberg used to tell that story. That's how she got on Star Trek. She called them up and said, I would just like to be on your show. And they're like, oh, we didn't think you'd want to do this show. She goes, I would love to do that show. And all of a sudden she's on the show. Of course, yeah, she's Whoopi Goldberg. It's a lot easier to make the call.
You still have to fight though. That's the thing. Even like when I went to the agency that I'm at right now, I got there and I felt really comfortable and things were great. But the first few months I was there, the animation department at my particular agency is very closed. And even though they'll look at you and be like, oh yeah, we've seen your stuff, we love it. Then you won't hear it. And so I had that experience and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like I see you smiling at me, but why is it, So I actually went in, we kind of had a little row about it. I was like, listen, this isn't happening. And she had some things to say to me and I reminded her that her position is the agent. And then after that, we were cool. And then after that, things started to happen. And then since that time, the doors opened up. But I think like you said, you need an advocate. You need some, because very few times outside of Bruce, but look at the guy. I mean,
yeah, right? The whole
putting yourself out there is true, but doing both things, honestly. Putting yourself out there, but at the same time, getting the people who are supposed to be your advocate on your side and being like, hey, I want to do this. We're a team. Let's go do it. You know what I mean? It's very important.
And you know, the relationship with your agent is a precarious one as well. You know, if you're just starting out, you know, he's got a little more clout because he's got a proven track record. So he can go in and have a row and say, hey, look, I can go somewhere else, you know. So sometimes, though, if you're just starting out, because I've got another client who all of a sudden he's kind of getting a big head and stuff going, yeah, I think I'm going to, and I'm like, well, where the hell else are you going to go? Nobody knows who you are yet, okay? So again, do it in a diplomatic way.
Yeah.
You want but again, you know, I mean, I'm sure you didn't just go in there puff, you know, do
No,
everything
that's
I
not
say.
me. Anyone knows
Exactly,
me. I don't do
exactly.
that, you know.
So I just want to make sure you kind of
Yeah.
go in diplomatically in a business-like way.
Yeah.
I wanted to make that point. So. Justin, you're the last question.
Yes.
It better be a good one.
It is.
It's the last question of the night.
I think it is. So I just wanted to ask you guys, how has the industry itself affected the way you are, changed your personality or your opinions, the way you think, in a sense, for all of you?
That's an interesting question.
That's a really interesting question. I don't know.
I think with
I don't
me,
wanna go
the
first.
bitterness comes out. doesn't it?
I guess for me, it's just the surprise of the gaming world and what it really is. And at first, people are like, "Oh yeah, okay, games." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, you don't know anything." Because it is. Once people start to get into it, I mean, did you have any clue when you were first coming in, like how massive it was, how intense?
The gaming world?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
And that's probably one thing that did change for me. Going, wow, what an amazing, vast world this was. And that was 12 years ago when I started into it. I had no idea. So that, I mean, I guess the respect for that, but did it change me as a person? But I think more respect for things maybe I didn't understand. Looking into it and really listening maybe a little more.
To try to get more, this is a really deep question, but to try to reach down a little bit and get more specific for me personally, wow, it makes you deal with a lot of issues you have as a human being, good and bad, both. And because there's a lot of heartache.
Oh, into the industry in general. Oh, yeah.
Did I mention the bitterness?
And you do have to deal with the bitterness, because if that starts to show, people will see it and you'll never work again. And that's what I mean by facing those things and coming to terms with them and keeping a lid on that.
And it's true that like everybody here is most people here are not from here; they're from somewhere else. And what you had to give up to come here, the bravery everybody has in entertainment. Nobody back home could imagine 1 week of your life. They couldn't even imagine. And you have to suffer the slings and arrows of those calls. So you in a movie, man? You should do commercials. And you're trying to explain, well, I took a class. Oh, you take a class? I thought you were out of school. And I know you have to suffer all those things, and it's like the bravery that you have out here to do what we do. That is what when you're talking about the deeper thing. I was talking about games, but the heavier one is that it does. You have to have that respect for yourself when you have the highs, enjoy them, but know the lows are coming, because it's never this. Even for the biggest celebrities in the world, they're going to have highs and lows within their world. So understanding there's going to be highs and lows, and enjoying the highs and having that.
It does not get easier.
Yeah.
No.
It will never get easier.
Yeah, I think it actually gets harder. I think is the truth. For me, how I changed it, I learned to let things go. Because in the beginning, I mean, I'm a fierce competitor. I am, by nature, I like diligence, I like practice, I like those things. But at the same time, with that nature came this thing where I would get something and I'd be like, you know what I mean? And I'd want to do my best, and if I couldn't give my best, and I didn't love it. But I had to learn to let things go.
Yeah.
I do the best that I can. I'll do my due diligence, but then after that, it's out of my hands. And so that to me was the biggest, I guess, lesson that I got from, or the biggest way that I've changed since the beginning, is that when things don't go my way, I'm like, it is what it is. And I know that as long as I gave it my best, I did my all, then I don't go, It's whatever, and I move on to the next thing, and it keeps
And that
things.
takes practice.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
takes
very much so.
practice.
You know,
It takes discipline.
and it takes the sting out of this because I know that this is coming and it happens. And so when it happens, does it hurt? Yeah, but it's not gonna end my life because maybe it just didn't belong to me. You know what I mean? So.
You know when you leave an audition and you find yourself walking down the street and all the lines are silently coming out of your mouth. Stop doing that. But one of the things that helped me get away from doing that is the script you walk out the door with. Now, as soon as I'm done, no matter how I did, if I feel I fucking rocked it, I rip up the script and throw it in the trash before I even leave the office. And that helps me wash that completely away.
Yeah. For me, I've had a very varied career, and it's always been successful, but I'm not obviously the superstar. And
Me, you are.
thank you, Jamie. Oh, you're so sweet. No, it's because it's a little different answer than everybody else. For me, I've been doing this since I was 19 years old. It's never changed for me. Nothing has really changed except the different levels of success that I've had. But I've always done it for the same reason, because I'm having a great fucking time. And you know, my kids will tell you, my wife will tell you, all these people around me will tell you, and most of the people who have worked with me, hey man, look at this fucking class, man. I mean, I'm plying you with alcohol while we learn things, okay? Because why? Because it's a good time. And I've never really gone into, I've gone into a few auditions, but most of the auditions I've gone into, I go into thinking, okay, I'm gonna go in and do this thing that I do, and then I'm gonna go get a drink, or I'm gonna go get lunch, or I'm gonna do what I wanna do, because there's so many more important things in life than, pretending sometimes, So, it's everything that these guys are saying. You gotta let it go sometimes. You just gotta. I mean, when I walk out of an audition, like Bruce said, I totally just walk out of the audition, and then at the end of the day, somebody will say, "Oh, what did you audition for?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it was because I did it when I was there, and if I get it, great. If I don't, I got another audition tomorrow. Who the fuck cares? There's gonna be something that comes along. Or I bribe Jamie. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Ike Amadi.